Hey everybody, it's Maggie from Personal Euphoria with today's plank story. Again, it doesn't have to be plank, it can be any move you choose. So I would say just start moving, even if it's just a few deep breaths right now. And we have a little story and/or update on my honeybees. If you were in class today, you've heard at least the beginning of this story, but let's get the clock started. Here we go. So on Sunday, I got my 2 new beehives because my honeybees did not survive the winter, and I installed them. If you're interested in that, I had posted a video of Facebook Live on Sunday of installing one of the hives. And I always go to Facebook because I like to name the 2 hives, and Facebook and my friends are really creative about coming up with names. And this year I had said I wanted to play on words of the word comb. And so we had narrowed down the 2 names to Combs and Watstung, based on Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson, and Comb Sweet Comb, and No Place Like Comb. But it turns out we officially have to go with Combs and Watstung, although maybe just Combs, because there's a little mystery to the bees this year. So yesterday I looked out at the hive and it was a really hot day, and one of the hives had a bee's beard on it, like when you see a bunch of bees outside the front of the hive trying to cool off and get out of the hive because they're warm. And the other hive had nothing, which I knew immediately was a bad sign, that either they were dead or they had left. And so as soon as I could, I opened that hive, and there were almost no bees in it, except the queen still in her cage with her attendants. And she will not live if she doesn't get other bees. So I was very concerned that they had swarmed. I've since learned that the technical terminology for what these bees did would have been absconded, because they didn't divide. The entire hive left their home. I immediately felt guilty, because if they're not in my yard, it's very likely 10,000 bees are now hanging out in one of my neighbor's trees, or if they have a little piece of rotten step or porch somewhere, maybe in their house. So I texted all my neighbors, have you seen my 10,000 bees? You know, some people will post a photo of a lost cat on a telephone pole. I'm looking for 10,000 bees. And they don't have long for me to get them back and reintegrate them. So anyway, I talked to the person who sold me the bees today, because I don't think this should have happened, and because it seems very unlikely this would have happened if there wasn't an accidental queen inside the hive. So he thinks that the bees just drifted from one hive to the other. But I looked at my other hive, and having done this for like 8 years, I don't think there's 20,000 or double the bees in there. But anyway, what I'm trying to do, and you'll have to keep your fingers crossed now for both hives, I have taken 2 frames out of the healthy hive and moved them into the hive that only had a queen. And I'm hoping they now both reestablish themselves. But it's very possible I'm really just separating one hive. So fingers crossed for both hives. Now, what's interesting here is it is a little like hindsight. If you knew, if you just did that one extra step. So on Sunday, shortly after I installed the hive, I saw something I had never noticed on the day I installed the hive. The bees were just everywhere, flying around the entire backyard, like bumping into the house. And I said to Matt, it looks like a tornado of bees out there. And maybe it's just because it's so hot. I've never seen that. And I am familiar with swarming, or apparently absconding. Swarming is apparently when the hive divides and one group goes off and another stays behind. Absconding is when they completely leave. Either way, they create this sort of tornado effect. Now, when I looked up swarming, you always see like a ton of bees hanging in a tree, like a giant football or 3 footballs all on top of each other. I had never thought, well, how do they get to that tree? And they don't fly like a giant football. They spread out, and you can go online, and if you watch videos, people will describe it as a tornado, the exact term I used. Another reason I don't think they drifted, but that they absconded. So none of my neighbors have run across 10,000 bees, maybe luckily, and we'll hope that the hives both survive, now each reintegrated into their home. I'm going to give them a little time, because this is a very precarious time and I don't want to anger them because then they both might not accept either of their queens. So we will see how it goes. That's a 4.5-minute plank. So I hope you actually picked something like breathing. I hope you have a wonderful night. And as always, keep moving.